Welcome to session 5 of Unit 1. Session 5 is on the place of history in social studies. Once again, let's quickly go through the objectives together. Objective 1. You should be able to explain why history is a social science. 2. State the differences between the concepts change and conflict. Then 3. Write brief definitions of history, revolution, civilization, nationalism, exploration. Then 4. You should state at least two important roles of historical knowledge in the studies of social studies. History as a social science. So why is history considered science? In other words, what is science? Science is an organized or systematized body of knowledge as well as a method of inquiry or a method of searching for what? Knowledge. Knowledge that is generated from science is a result of an organized or systematic um, method of inquiry. You don't just arrive at particular knowledge in science out of the blue. It's a procedure you follow. So we are saying that history also follow similar trends. That is why it is considered as what? A science. So for history to be considered as a science, it must have a scientific what? Procedures. In other words, historians are taught to use the inquiry method of what? Investigation. Even though they may not use it exactly the way the scientists use it, like in the science lab, no. But largely, they go through data collection, they carry out observation, and they subject all this to some form of what? Analysis, so to speak. So as a result, they come out and based on the analysis and all that, the historians make predictions and they subsequently formulate what? Generalizations. In view of all this and the fact that history follows the scientific procedures, we can say that history is a science. History is a science because they also follow the same procedure the scientists in other fields also follow. Now let's look at the various concepts as far as history is concerned. The concept of social change. This concept means that in our social and physical environment, as we talked about earlier, things are constantly becoming different by each day, week, month, and a year. It can be from transformation or a departure from a negative to a positive or vice versa. Things keep on changing. What is of fashion today, tomorrow it may become what? An archaic thing. That is what I mean by what? Things what? Keep on changing, either negative to positive or positive to what? Negative. But there are certain things that are not considered as what? A change. Can you mention one? As far as our way of life is concerned, can you mention some of the things that can be considered as a change, others that may not be considered as a change? Did you say inflation? What about unemployment and function? Why are they not considered as social change? Can you identify some factors that may influence social change? Formal education, urbanization. How can formal education influence social change? How can urbanization influence social change? Think of other factors that can influence social change. Can religion be a factor? Let me give you an example. People out of religion may desist from eating certain animals. For example, I know some religious body don't eat pork. You don't eat other type of animals. Yes, this can constitute social change. People in the rest of their life will never eat certain animal or will never do certain things based on religion. So you can relate formal education and urbanization to what as a factor of social change. Hope we are getting along with me. Let's continue. Let's look at the concept of conflict. History is replete with disagreements between individuals, ethnic groups, even between countries. So it is important at this moment to note that conflict can be functional and dysfunctional depending upon the outcome of the conflict. And there are dimensions of conflict. Conflict can be cultural, conflict can be political as a result of what? Struggle for political power, conflict arising from the scarcity and goods and services as well as values of what? Conflict. Let's go back a bit. I said conflict can have functional, conflict can be functional and dysfunctional depending upon the outcome. So conflict become functional when the outcome is what? Positive. Let's say when there is conflict, at the end of the conflict, there is positive uh, outcome. As if two communities are fighting, then the government decides that, okay, let's establish a school between the two communities that are fighting. Or based upon the investigation, the government decides that, okay, let's do particular, in order to resolve the conflict, let's do A or B for these people. That can be, that conflict can be termed what? Functional. But when there are destructions of properties and life, that conflict is dysfunctional. So let's continue. So as I said, there are historical accounts that are replete with all their consequences as far as conflict is concerned. So that is why it is very important as a social studies learner to understand very well the meaning of what? Conflict. Conflicts are all over us. The other concept is revolution. Revolution takes place when an existing government is abruptly what? Overthrown. And now you see a more radical party or group what? Assuming power. So you can cite a number of conflicts that we have witnessed. Um, for example, we have the 1980 revolution by Rawlins. We also talk about the American Revolution of 1775. We can also make mention of Revolution of 1785. That's the French Revolution. So, what factor do you think give rise to Revolution of 1980? Can you give some of the factors? The next concept we're going to look at is nationalism. So, when our leaders or individuals within the nation take actions primarily to strengthen and develop and also inculcate loyalty among all citizens. It is within the remit of what? Nationalist what? Perspective. Where people consider nationalism as what? An ethnocentric doctrine, meaning that you are self-centered, you are only interested in your country, or you are only interested in the development of your country. You don't consider other society or other countries. Do you agree with that assertion? So they say that because you are always projecting your nation, you are always projecting your region, you are always projecting your district, or you are seem to be projecting your ethnic group. That is the ethnic group from which you are coming from. Then in that way, or in that sense, you can be considered an ethnocentric person because you are seen as projecting your region or your country, your district. So we can also say that nationalists are not very interested in international relations, but basically in the development of their own country. You remember the late President may his soul rest in peace, Professor Atamas, the popular saying Diofia Sam, when there was something happening in another country, I'm not mentioning the name, people were accusing him of keeping quiet. He told them we should be concerned about our domestic matters. Another concept we have to look at is social control. Social control is a regulation of human behavior by outside social forces and is maintained by laws and rules. Every society need to maintain law and order. Every family need to maintain law and order. And there are laws that must govern every behavior in our society. So these laws are either put in the document called legal codes or what? Constitution. And the laws and these laws must reflect our norms and values as a country. For instance, Ghana, what are our norms? What are things that we value? And those norms that are very important for our survival, some of them are put into the law or they become law so that those who go contrary to these norms are punished. So that is why in Ghana, because we value human life, anybody who takes another person's life must also be punished severely. So having gone through the concept of all the concepts in history, can you try this assessment question? One, explain why history is considered as a social science. Then two, what is meant by the concept of social change. Three, identify at least three factors that can influence social change. In your own words, explain your understanding of any two of the following concepts. So explain in your own words what is conflict, what is nationalism, what is revolution, and lastly, social control.